Why the public expenditure is growing? How the public expenditure is growing? Public expenditure is growing for sure, and the answer for that was made by Adolf Wagner. It is popularly called as Wagner's hypothesis of public expenditure. Let's go through the hypothesis. Let's look at the hypothesis first. This is the hypothesis developed by Adolf Wagner, a 19th century economist, and also lived in the early 20th century. This hypothesis, developed by Wagner, was related to the growth of public expenditure, and it is related to the explanation for the growth of public expenditure. So, public expenditure is growing. Why it is growing? And the answer was made by Adolf Wagner through his hypothesis of growth of public expenditure, and this is also called the law of increasing state activity. Increasing the state activity creates increasing the state activity leads to increase in public expenditure. This is also called the Wagner's law. So this hypothesis is called the Wagner's law of increasing state activity. Adolf Wagner connected the growth of public expenditure with economic growth. That means Adolf Wagner believed that there exists a cause and effect relationship between both economic growth and public expenditure. That means whenever the economic growth is increasing, public expenditure will also increase in proportionate manner. Whenever the economic growth is coming down, the public expenditure will also coming down in the similar fashion. So this is the hypothesis put forward by Adolf Wagner. And let's look what is the cause and effect relationship between economic growth and public expenditure. He identified, or he argued, a proportional relationship between growth of the economy and growth of the public expenditure. Whenever that means economic growth is equal to, first of all we have to know that economic growth here is measured by the growth of per capita income or per capita GNP. It is economic growth. Whenever the economic growth is increasing, the expenditure made by the government for various purposes will also increase in similar fashion or in equal proportion, at least in the industrialized economies, according to the study conducted by Adolf Wagner. Although it is primarily developed for explaining the growth of expenditure in the industrialized developed economies, it can also be applied to the developing economies where the economic growth, the public expenditure is increasing in developing economies too. So that uh, growth of public expenditure in the developing and developed economies uh, is in fact related to or connected with the growth of the economy. So that means the according to Adolf Wagner's hypothesis or Adolf Wagner's law of increasing state activity, the growth of public expenditure is primarily powered by economic growth. So economic growth is the indicator. Economic growth here is the independent variable for explaining the growth of public expenditure in the world. Let's conclude this brief uh, presentation on Wagner's law of increasing state activity. According to the hypothesis, whenever the national income increases, public expenditure also increases, and the reverse will happen when national income is declining. So, public expenditure is related positively to national income or economic growth. So whenever the economic growth is positive, public expenditure will also increase will also increase, and whenever the economy is on downswings, the public expenditure will also come down. In fact, not only economic growth, but also the pressure for social progress in the country will incite for the growth of public expenditure. Not only the economic growth will incite, Along with economic growth is the primary reason for the growth of public expenditure according to Adolf Wagner, and alongside the pressure for social progress, um, especially in a welfare state, is inciting for the growth of public expenditure. So this is the Wagner's law of increasing state activity. He connected the growth of public expenditure to the economic growth. Thank you.